Hey folks, I am the Chiggerbug, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Thrawn. This is the second book review I've ever done. It is probably the fourth time that I've rewritten this script or re-recorded it, because each time it seems to get better and my arguments seem to get more concise. So what we're going to be talking about is a general overview of the book, the things I liked about it, the things I didn't like about it, the things I liked most about it, and then we'll just offer a conclusion and a little bit of a disclaimer as to where I'm coming from when I talk about this story. So here we go. Now, Thrawn is a story in Star Wars written by Timothy Zahn. It tells the story of an exiled alien from the uncharted region who caught the eye of the Emperor and was inducted into the Imperial Navy as an officer. Thrawn is a tactical genius who seems to be able to win a fight against any odds. His abilities expand beyond combat. He can read people very well and can predict their behaviors based on their prior actions and by observing the art of their people. He has weaknesses, however. Being a high-ranking member of the Imperial Navy, Thrawn pulls victories against his and the Empire's enemies time and time again. Yet with each victory, Thrawn seems to trip over himself in the political field. He requires the aid of more politically astute allies, and it is the perspective of these allies that the majority of the stories of the book are told. Let's talk about some of the things I liked about the book. There are a lot of characters in Thrawn, a lot. And as a result, I believe that someone who is less than familiar with Rebels and the Clone Wars cartoons may struggle to keep up. This weakness is also an intense strength, however, as Timothy Zahn manages to take advantage of some of Star Wars' most iconic characters to keep the stories from going too slowly or requiring too much explanation. Similarly, Zahn restrains himself from giving tertiary characters more story than they require. The comms officer of the Chimera does not require a story for a good story to be told, and Zahn does well in avoiding giving too much time to any character. Due to the reader's likely familiarity with some of the cast, Zahn is challenged to tell a story in which characters that the reader knows make decisions that make sense. With Arinda Price's side story, for example, Zahn must make the reader, or at least this reader, root for her. The same is true for the Empire as a whole. Often, and in fact pretty much to this day, Zahn has convinced me to root for the Empire. The ideals by which the cast of Thrawn lives makes me believe in their loyalty to the Empire and their desire to keep the people of the galaxy from falling into another Clone Wars-like struggle for power. It's time to mention some things that I didn't like about the book, and really it's just one thing. Being completely fair, there are some aspects of this story that I did not find compelling. Arinda Price, despite her very compelling character development, I have a hard time making myself care about her, or anyone around her. Her friends, I could not care less. Her parents, I don't really give a fuck about them. Her political opponents, again, why am I supposed to care about them? Now, I believe that is a fair critique of Arinda Price, because she was already a secondary character in Rebels, and she's not a very compelling character overall. Her motives, while they're there and they make sense, especially for her character and the things that she goes through, they make me distrust the Empire. And I suppose that that's kind of the point, because the Empire are the bad guys, quote unquote, of Star Wars. But I don't like Arinda Price in relation to Thrawn and in relation to Thrawn's story. But even better than the good and even better than the bad, the best thing about this book is Thrawn. Thrawn is best read in context. This is my second time going through it, having read it for this review, and I liked it even better the second time. So Zahn has claimed in interviews that he never knew he would get more books. And by that he meant that Disney only paid him to make one book. They weren't sure how well it would do, they didn't know if they would give him another contract. So Zahn says that it was never clear what he was going to do with the next story. But it is very clear to me that Zahn had a plan for both this trilogy and the Ascendancy trilogy, with each installment in this series having influence over every other installment in this series. Zahn's ability to plan a story and then integrate it into every book, adding impact to each decision made, is incredible. All of this encourages you to experience these stories more than once, and each time a story is read, greater impact is added to the story. The more context is realized. So with the good and with the bad and with the very, very best that Thrawn has to offer, I have to say that Thrawn is an excellent book. I genuinely believe that it could not have been written much better than it was. If you, like me, were only neutral to Thrawn, or even you hated him as an antagonist, you would like these books. If you love Thrawn from Legends, you will love these books. Empire lovers, rebels, Trekkies, it doesn't matter. If you like science fiction, then Thrawn has something to offer you. Even the inclusion of Verinda Price, of whom I don't care. Thrawn is one of the best books that I've ever read, and I will probably read it again. And if I ever get bored of reading, I'll read it again. Now, this is the part of the video where I wanted to give you guys a bit of a disclaimer. My opinion is very biased. I have read the entire, I guess, duology of trilogies. And Thrawn has a special place in my heart because it is the first book that I have read in my adulthood, and that's not a joke. I read Aragon right before senior year in high school. I finished that series, and then I stopped reading. I listened to a few audiobooks, but Thrawn is the very first book I read on my Kindle, which was a birthday present from my wife, and I have not stopped reading since. So, my opinion may be a tad skewed, but Thrawn is objectively a well-written story with good characters, good character development, and a very enticing story, especially read in context with the rest of Thrawn's story. The next review I do will probably end up being on Cassandra Clare's City of Bones, because my wife very much wants me to read that story, and I'm gonna oblige. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you listening. If you have opinions, put them down below. If you don't have opinions, put them down below. And, subscribe if you want more book reviews, because I will be making more. And goodbye.
Admiral.
Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Grand Admiral Thrawn. Grand Admiral. Admiral.
Grand Admiral.
It's Thrawn!